Good day, everyone. Welcome to our first ever educational fundraising webinar. We're really excited to have you here today to share what we've learned virtually fundraising in 2020. Today's focus is one of our favorite topics around here, school fundraising. It's 2021, as you know, and hopefully a completely better year than 2020 was for all of us. And now, even more than ever, we've got to continue championing education so that when students return to in-person learning, wherever you are, that your school coffers are full, our schools are staffed, and those extracurricular activities are still options for all of our kids. Why is it so critical, and why do we want to help so much? Well, the short answer is we love schools. In fact, in a typical non-pandemic year, schools represent about 20% of the clients and organizations we serve annually. Our team is made up of 10 benefit auctioneer specialists, 7 of whom are parents themselves. And education is a value that we all share and really strongly get behind. Our team has a broad base of experience with all types of schools, from public to charter to private, small to giant, you name it. So we've got lots of practical experience to share with you. And frankly, we can't stomach the thought of our schools not being appropriately funded. So let me introduce myself. I'm Misty Marquam. I'm the founder and principal auctioneer at Marquam Auction Agency. I've been fundraising professionally since 2006, and I absolutely adore what I do. I'd like to thank you for attending today's school fundraising webinar and being with us. We're super excited to share with you what we've learned over the last 10 months about virtual fundraising and how you can easily incorporate online, digital, and virtual strategies into your fundraising for 2021. So don't worry about taking copious notes. We'll send you a follow-up recap and a link to observe this presentation. And joining me today is the incomparable school fundraising queen herself, Miss Amanda Valley.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Valley. I'm a professional benefit auctioneer specialist. That is a mouthful. And a professional MC with Marquam Auction Agency. And I am so glad to be here with you today. And I am honored that I was invited. Thank you so much for having me, Misty. You know, I got my start in school auctions, and that was one of the things that really attracted me to working with Misty and the Marquam team. And that was that so many of us had school-aged kids, and that we were uniquely positioned to understand the needs and importance of raising money for our kids' educations. Hey, before we get started, we're going to do a quick poll. We're going to put that up in just a second. Here it is. What are your thoughts on fundraising this year? You know, are you full throttle and even have held an event or two virtually already? Are you ramping up, and are you just, hoping that you're going to get that event up in the next 1 to 2 months? Are you kind of thinking about it and hoping that this webinar is going to give you that kickstart that your organization needs? Or are you completely scared that you're not going to raise any money this year and you have no idea where to start? Be honest. Tell us which one of these 4 options you are. We're going to give you a couple of seconds to do your voting, and then Sarah will show us the poll results. Hey, ramping up. Hope to have one in the next 1 to 2 months. That's awesome. And I am very glad to see that no one is completely scared. You shouldn't be. And we're going to tell you why today, right, Misty?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, welcome, Amanda. And, folks, I want to share with you the most common pain point we've gotten from schools when we even just start to think and talk about fundraising is we have no idea where to begin. That's what they all say. And we get it. We'll discuss some strategies that'll help. And we have a lot of content to cover today. We'll present for about 25 minutes. We'll save about 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. So down at the bottom, post all of your questions in the Q&A section so that we can go over them and answer them in the chat later on. We'll do that at the end. Deal? All right, so today, let's just go over what we'll cover. We're gonna cover 2021 predictions and expectations for what fundraising will look like this year. 7 reasons why fundraising during COVID actually works and in many ways exceeds outcomes than what we were seeing for in-person events. We'll talk about some practical solutions to your most pressing pain points for 2021 fundraising. And of course, we'll end with our Q&A. So you ready? Let's get started. All right, our 2021 predictions. Plan for a virtual event in 2021. One interesting tidbit we're noticing is that in our market, not one organization has formally booked an in-person event or gala for this year. even in the fall. So that's a huge and major indicator of why you probably should plan on virtual and online fundraising methodologies in lieu of your in-person events right now. No one wants to be in that same situation we found ourselves in at the onset of the pandemic, with venue, caterer, vendor contracts to try and negotiate your way out of, financial penalties, last deposits, and wasted time and resources planning that event that didn't occur. So in fact, if you'd asked me 10 months ago, a year ago, if virtual fundraising events would even be a thing, I would have told you you were plumb out of your mind. But here I stand 10 months later, completely corrected. They work. Not only do fundraising virtual events and galas, have they been outperforming their in-person event counterparts, but donors have really embraced them, and sponsorships have been on the rise and growing for virtual events. And this might blow your mind, but we're netting more virtually than we ever did in person, due primarily to the expense of producing a virtual event being about 20% less than in-person events. So why should you pivot? Good reasons, right? One huge factor in determining the outcome of your virtual fundraising event is engagement. You've got to engage your people. You can't just have them be viewers. You need to transition them to be participants. So let's talk about a few ways that you can do that. How do virtual events work to capture folks' attention, and what can you do to pivot a viewer to a participant? Well, let me just start with fundraising has evolved a ton since the onset of COVID. There's no more hard and fast rules about times of day, days of the week, or seasons to fundraise. Those are kind of all out the window now. And so here are some options for how we've seen organizations execute virtual events that are just more engaging for viewers in general. The first one is offer incentive drawings, raffles, and like reveals, so that you're enticing people to stay on for longer and giving them something to look forward to that's happening later on in the program. It sounds a little hokey, but it's super, super effective. You can also partner with a local catering company or a small restaurant. I promise they'll be super grateful for the business, and integrate food delivery into your virtual event so that you can kind of reimagine that in-person experience, but translate it to the at-home experience. You can add trivia questions into your chat and offer prizes so that you're basically rewarding viewers to become a participant. Works. And the prizes don't have to be like amazing. They can be like literally like $10 gift certificates to Starbucks, things like that. You can coordinate watch parties. So they can either be virtual watch parties or small groups of whatever's allowable in your market. And that will kind of recreate that community feel and experience of the in-person event, but to your virtual. What else works? Oh, you know what? You can add a virtual red carpet, like a live show to your pre-show, and offer an engaging host or an MC that really starts that conversation and gets people really feeling like, oh, this isn't just 100% pre-recorded, boring event. You should also encourage people to join the chat by assigning like a chat cheerleader, is what we call them, to solicit engagement, say hi when they're logging in, thank them for their donations, and kind of add that level of socialization and just engagement back, as well as kind of piggybacking on social campaigns, social media, so that you can solicit participation on your social outlets, which just generates more buzz about your event. And finally, probably the most exciting thing, and depending on the weather, and of course, where you're at, outdoor gatherings. You know, what's allowable? We've heard some great ideas around drive-ins and socially distanced outdoor parties at wineries and theaters and things like that. Get creative. You know, folks are begging for community engagement right now. So, you know, brainstorm, give them what they want. About upping the game.
Oh yeah, we've got to up our game, folks.
That.
We're going to talk about that right now. This is an exciting opportunity to innovate your virtual event and kind of invigorate your fundraising across the board. You know, go on location, use props. Oh, speaking of location and props, here I am at the animal shelter here, and you can see we've got props. We've got little kittens. This was a really fun event to do on a location. And, it was just really fun to see all the different animals, to interact with them, to talk about them. It was really, really great. And, you can incorporate entertainment. It can be as simple as a dance party, or you can add musicians. I've done beautiful virtual events where musicians have either pre-recorded or live content that is just phenomenal, and it really is exciting. Donors have higher expectations now because they have seen a few of these, and they don't have as much grace for lower production value anymore.
Amen.
You've got to up your game, and this is the perfect opportunity to do it. And you want to make sure that you're serving your mission. Keep it fresh, build community, but also remind everybody why they are there to help serve the mission of your organization. But keep it fun.
Totally.
Now, you've got to think about a TV show too. You don't want to have a couple of talking heads. You want to have set design or digital backgrounds, which can be large or small, depending on your budget. Make it dynamic and engaging. Consider what you would want the viewers to take away from the entire experience. Make it meaningful. Really drive that mission home with your content and remind donors what it is that they're funding. Make sure that there's good storytelling and engagement. Use brand colors so that people always remember you. Think about what it is that you would like to watch and make it that. Don't make it something that you wouldn't want to watch. Nobody will want to watch that. Make it fun and exciting. Now,
Totally.
We're going to talk about the 7 most common reasons schools think that they can't fundraise right now, and why, in fact, you actually can.
Absolutely. Friends, I'm here to tell you that the number one reason we get is that people just say all the time, asking for money just feels so wrong during a pandemic. And here's what I'm going to tell you, charitable giving statistics are reinforcing that donors want to help and are showing up in a huge way. Overall giving for 2020 was up 4.5% over the 2019 year. Online giving is up a whopping 12.1%, and Giving Tuesday donations for 2020 were up 34%. That is unprecedented. So here's what I'm going to say to you is, there are a certain demographic of the country that has not been negatively impacted, and they want to help. So give them the opportunity to do so. And it is your job as a fundraiser to continue asking them. Yeah. What's our second most common reason, Amanda?
Tell you right now, the second most common reason we hear is shortage of volunteers. Now, I feel this one because I used to organize a large event every year at my kids' elementary school when they were younger. And all of those volunteers, man, they are so important to making that live event go off. But less people are needed to host virtual events. It's basically your core crew of your auction committee or your fundraising committee, and knowledgeable professionals are going to be able to fill in the roles for the specialized jobs that are required. And we'll talk more about that later on. But as long as you've got that core group of people, you don't need people to come clean up. You don't need registration. You don't need checkout with the auction items. All of those jobs no longer need volunteers with a virtual setting.
Totally.
And reason number 3 is a big one, Misty, isn't it?
Absolutely. We don't have enough time. That's what we hear all the time. And what I want to tell you is this, folks, of the orgs that we polled in 2020 and who responded, they're reporting on average 60% fewer labor or staff or volunteer hours are needed to execute these virtual fundraising events. So that's reason enough right there. You do have enough time. And funny story, I wouldn't recommend it, but I'll tell it. Our very first virtual was a school, which we pivoted from their in-person event that we'd been planning for like 10 months to the very first virtual event that this part of the country had ever seen. And we did it in 38 hours. I wouldn't recommend it, but it is possible. So time is not an excuse. What's the 4th most common excuse we get?
So the 4th one that we get is, this is how we've always do it. This is how it's always been done. Well, innovation, as we all know, has had to be the name of the game for the last 12 months, and it is going to continue to be so throughout 2021 and probably beyond. We have seen organizations struggle with fundraising, even when we were doing those live events, because they were afraid to try new things. Well, guess what? Now you have to try new things. And there are so many ways to create really engaging event content virtually.
Absolutely. And here's what I want to tell you, folks. You've got to think differently about virtual. You can't just regurgitate what you used to do into a virtual environment. That doesn't work. One thing I want to talk about too is like comfort levels. Do you think that even when everybody gets vaccinated, your donors are just going to be like, oh yeah, I want to go socialize in a group of 500 people? Maybe, but maybe not. And so will they be ready? You don't know. So we expect virtual to be here through 2021 at least. And probably, to be totally honest, I think it's going to be around forever as like another tool in the fundraiser's toolbox. So get used to it because it's here to stay. And virtual means you're no longer tied to a specific season or night of the week. So it offers you a lot more flexibility, I think.
Oh yeah,
You think, Amanda?
I totally think so. There's no need for babysitters if you have kids who are under a certain age. You know, your kids can attend because virtual events are family friendly. You know, grandparents who live on a totally different part of the country, like my folks live on the East Coast, they can now participate because geography is irrelevant. You know,
Absolutely.
People who would never have considered coming to your in-person event for myriad reasons, whether it's location or, you know, just don't feel like a party person, they can now attend your virtual event. It's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. And you should definitely capitalize on that, you know, because you have family and friends that want to help, but geography was what was limiting them originally. Now that's no longer their excuse. So again, don't regurgitate what you've always done. 2021 needs to be your year of thinking big and burning the box. Like, don't even just get outside of the box, just burn the darn thing. We want to get rid of that. We've sadly seen some of our colleagues fall by the wayside this last year because of their unwillingness or inability to pivot to virtual. And we've seen lots of organizations and schools suffer because they didn't fundraise in 2020 and now their coffers are empty and they don't know what to do. So our data shows that people are still showing up, folks, and showing up in a big way. So keep fundraising, which brings me to probably my biggest pain point, which is technology.
Oh, I don't want to talk about it, Misty. I don't even know where to begin. What do we do? Help, please.
Yes. You sound just like most of our clients when they first come to us. And what I have to tell you is you can easily stream lower end to high end productions to like Facebook Live, YouTube, Vimeo, Instagram, things like that. And they can be as low end, low produced as you want, all the way up to like almost like the Today Show, like a TV show. And you can do anything in between. Live streaming is really broadening, I think, the way we think about fundraising. And, you know, besides of Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of other cool things that happen in the future. One of which is mobile bidding platforms. So this is the software that you're using to like collect the bids, give the gifts, register the people. Some of them now have even integrated streaming directly to the platform itself. So you don't need like two devices anymore unless you want. I mean, there's nothing wrong with two devices, but you know, you have options. So full service software packages like schoolauction.net, Greater Giving, Give Lively as a text to give option. You have tons of options, folks. So don't let technology get in the way. Just partner with people who know how to use them.
And do not forget that you are widening your audience with that live stream, but you're widening it even further. That's another mouthful.
Say that 10 times fast.
I shan't, but thank you for the opportunity. Your audience also widens because you're going to keep this on the internet in perpetuity. It's going to live there and people are going to be able to go back and watch your event if they weren't able to attend live. And we're seeing donors give from those recordings.
Absolutely. Reason number 6 that we hear quite often is, you know, we don't have a budget. I suspect you don't have a budget because you didn't fundraise last year like we told you to, but that's okay. We're not going to reprimand you. We're going to try to help you here. So let me just tell you, virtual events have lower thresholds of payment do, right? You don't have a venue, you don't have any decor, you don't have food costs or a caterer. Your volunteer needs are way fewer. So you're actually saving about 20%. We found on average, it costs about 10% of your gross proceeds to throw or host a virtual fundraising event versus the average of 30%, which most orgs reach that threshold by throwing their in-person events. So you're saving 20% just right there. And again, they can be simple broadcasts streamed in really cost-effective ways. So don't let that be your hurdle. Our final reason that we hear
it's
a
a
lot
big
is,
one.
yeah, we hear that donors aren't giving. What if nobody watches? What do you think
Well,
of that, Amanda?
First of all, I say people are going to watch because they always do. And they are and people really enjoy them and they're a lot of fun. But
And they love you.
And they love you. And we have so many great folks who are doing virtual with us that are just doing a really amazing job and making it really engaging. There may be fewer viewers online, but like we touched on earlier, that recording is going to go out into the internet and people are going to be able to watch it for, potentially years to come and continue to donate to your organization from there. And while that might seem like, oh, there's fewer people, those folks are giving more, it's really fantastic how much these donors are really like carrying the water for these organizations. And, again, people who probably never would have come to your event due to whatever reason are able to come now and give money. They've always wanted to participate, but they just weren't sure how. And now they can.
Totally. Which brings us, folks, to another poll. We're going to put up another poll here in just a second. And as soon as you see it, I'd love for you to answer it. So of the 7 reasons we just gave why you think you can't fundraise, which is your biggest pain point? Asking for money feels wrong. You have a shortage of volunteers or help. You don't think you have enough time. This is how we always do it. I hope that's not your answer. Technology, no budget, or donors aren't giving. So if you can, please fill in your answer right now. We'd love to post the results so that we can tell you what the majority of you are really feeling about this. All right, got your answers in? Let's do this. What are our results? All right, well, while we're waiting for results, oh, here they are. Look at this, it's technology. This is no surprise to me. Technology is 38% your biggest pain point, followed by, looks like asking for money feels wrong. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We've got some good solutions for you, folks. Thank you for answering that. That was awesome. What I want to tell you this is virtual it's really working. It's outperforming a lot of our in-person events to a level that we never really expected. What we know of donor preferences are this: 85% of donors prefer to give at events, whether that's virtual or in-person events. Cater to what you know about your donors. Cater to the fact that they like to give at events. Give them an event to give at, and that will give you the opportunity to get those dollars in your organization or school's pockets. Always provide donors with the way they want to give, right? It's about them. The donors are the all-stars here. So our numbers suggest that nearly all events are netting more than their in-person events would have or were projected to. And our clients are seeing upwards of 20% increases. It's really quite amazing. Build community too with these virtual events. Keep your mission in front of donors. You need about 4 to 5 touch points annually to kind of keep those relationships going. So leverage your expanded reach with friends and family and continue to share your virtual event and market it even after the fact. And I'll give you an example. Our very first one that we did in March, we love you, Catlin Gable. I think we had like 500 or 600 viewers on live. And I think to date, I think this says 5,000 views. I think it's been viewed over 6,000 times now in 10 months. Like, that's pretty incredible. And those are kind of numbers you can share out with your sponsors and stuff too. So let's talk about donor feedback for a moment, because donors have come back with comments like, if this is what virtual fundraising is all about, let's never go back to the ballroom. And like, that's music to our ears, right? So just know that. And let's cover some practical solutions to your common pain points. And the first one I think is, again, let's burn that box.
Burn that box. Think outside of it, burn it, take it, fold it down, put it in the recycling. You gotta get rid of that box, because you can take other fundraising events and activities to virtual. And this is where you can really have a lot of fun and innovate. You know, we've already taken a local elementary school's beloved home tour to a virtual platform, creating essentially a 30-minute television program that was incredibly special. The school even shared the profits from the ticket sales with a local nonprofit that helps homeless teenagers. Win-win.
Yeah.
And you can take our expertise and creativity to retool other fundraising events, fund runs, art fairs, house parties. The possibilities are endless, and you can make it all look terrific with a professional tech team. And it's not too late to convert those spring 2021 events. You can still
Absolutely
do it.
Yes, you can, but start soon. Let's talk about some DIY solutions, folks. I know there's a lot of you who are do-it-yourself people. I know this is our business, but here's the thing. If you want to do it yourself, do it yourself. It's better than doing nothing, for sure. And for those of you who are smaller schools and you have smaller budgets, don't fear. There's solutions out there for you too. There are silent auctions, online auctions, email campaigns, live streamed just paddle raises and appeals, and all of the things Amanda mentioned before. Like, don't count yourself out just because you have to reimagine how you've always done it. We have a bunch of cost-effective solutions for you, for those of you who'd like to go virtual, but you don't know how. So if you're interested in that, reach out. And in the meantime, we've got some questions and answers for you. So let's talk about questions and answers. Well, oh, hi, Allie. She loves the shout out. Allie was from the school that we first pivoted from in person to a virtual event, and it was just so much fun. It was such an amazing success. We really hope to do a lot more of it for you. Yeah, it really was a great night. So for those of you, okay, Terry, hi, Terry. Terry's from a school that we're working with. Where did the numbers you displayed showing an increase in contributions and charitable giving originate from? This, I would have to say, Sarah, if you're on, would you please post your sources? So our operations manager, Sarah, did a lot of online reconnaissance to come up with some of these statistics, and she will probably post that very soon. Terry Connolly says, how would a live auction work when recorded, especially if you were auctioning off items? Now, I'm assuming you're talking about a live virtual auction where it's actually live. This is an awesome question, because you would use one of those software platforms we talked about earlier, like schoolauction.net, Greater Giving, things like that. And the latency ranges from a few seconds to about 35, 40 seconds. It's exactly the same way you would do a mobile bidding, like silent auction, if you've ever done one of those on your phone at a cocktail hour for the in-person events. Same exact way. Your auctioneer, like Amanda or myself, would be on stage. We'd have a comfort monitor that shows the bids rolling in, and we would just call bids just like you would. So it's pretty cool. And Allie, what do you think about incorporating text to give in the live production? Yes, text to give. I like text to give. I did a couple events this year with text to give, and while let me kind of explore the pros and cons. So the pros are, it gives yet another alternative for people, another way for them to give. Like if they don't want to get registered and do all the things through a software, they can just text a number and give a gift. It seems easy. I think the downfall with text to give is that you don't capture your donor information necessarily, because they're not forced to register. So you can't get in touch with them necessarily. You might not have their phone number, their contact information, and most of all, their credit card number. So, and as a last giver challenge, possibly, great idea. You know, I think get creative, people. That's the thing I want to just say is, you know, there are no hard and fast rules anymore. You've got to really just see what works for you, see what works for your donors, and get out there creatively.
Hey,
what else do we have?
Misty, I just wanted to let you know that I've heard from Sarah, and she says that the stats that she pulled came from multiple sources, and they will be sent in the recap that everybody who registered for this webinar will be getting. So
awesome.
Stay tuned for that.
Hi, Debbie. Debbie says, text to give through phone system, bill shows up, text to donate, sends link to give through. Phone companies were keeping 50%. What? That's crazy. I hope that's not true, but Debbie is a truth teller. So folks, do your reconnaissance, I would say. If you're exploring alternatives to a typical giving platform, do your reconnaissance, because honestly, the biggest pain points there are subscription fees, annual dues, and then like processing fees, whether it's through a credit card processor or not. If it's text to give, you still are doing lots of fees. So do your recon so you're not getting spanked on the back end.
We've
right?
got 2 more great questions, Misty.
Bring
And
them on.
spanked on the back end is the unofficial name of this webinar.
I didn't even mean to do that either. Hi, Michelle. Can you give an example of the raffles and teasers you presented at the top? Oh, sure. So like, for example, one thing that we do quite often as an incentive drawing, so I'm going to stay away from raffles for just a moment. Incentive drawing is like just in the chat. So your chat cheerleader would say something like, all right, folks, they would type this. All right, folks, here's a trivia question. The first person to answer this correctly will get, X prize. And then they would pose some sort of trivia question that directly relates to your mission so that we keep it all about you. And then it encourages all the people who are watching to engage with you. And what we found is that people who are engaging are more likely to give, and they're more likely to stay on for the duration of your live stream. So great examples of engagement. Raffles depends on where you are in the country. City, state regulations, definitely check your laws first or partner with a pro so they can help you there. But raffles traditionally, in our market have been kind of relatively illegal online, but our DOJ has been very, very flexible with nonprofits and schools since the pandemic because they know there's really no other way to do it. So we've been, like, for example, talking about a raffle, but then we don't reveal the winner until the last part of the live stream. So it like makes people who want to find out if they won or not stay, right? So that's a great way to tease people to stay on a little longer. Great question. And Nicole, what has been a successful length of time for a live virtual? Girl, you just asked the question of the day. I'm going to tell you something that may blow your mind. So our data shows that after about 45 minutes, you start losing donors at a rate of about 6% per minute. So you can go longer, just don't do your fundraising after that time, right? Make sure that you position your fundraising in your run of show to really maximize making the money. So don't do any fundraising after the 45 minute mark, folks. That
would be a great time to do your awards for your volunteers, maybe, or
thank yous, sponsor recognition.
Exactly. Something to that, akin to that, after the 45 minute mark would be perfect, because there will be people who will stay and watch that. Totally. But you want to make sure that you get that like Misty said, that fundraising done first.
Absolutely. Any other questions? I feel like there should be a lot more, folks. What else is on your mind? We want to hear from you.
Maybe they're just a really savvy group.
Perhaps, and even still.
They've got Zoom stock.
Well, that's all right. Well, if you have any additional questions, I'm going to leave you with this. If you have additional questions that you think of like afterwards, just email them to us and find out more. You can get a hold of Amanda or myself. Our email addresses are up on the slide right now. If you want to learn more about Marquam Auction Agency's solutions to your pain points, go to marquamauctionagency.com. And if you have any questions, seriously, email them to us. We will answer your questions. We want all of you to be successful, whether or not you use us or anybody else. We just want you to keep fundraising. It's our job to fill the gaps where, I hate to say it, but traditionally schools are underfunded, and it's our job to fill that gap. So whatever you do, keep fundraising. Good luck to you. Let us know if you have any questions. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. So this was great. And thank you, Misty, for inviting me. I was really honored to be here.
Absolutely. So thanks again, everybody. This has been recorded. We will send all of you who attended or registered a link to view it again so that you can get all of this information. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Happy New Year.